Oh, it's almost done. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and I am joined again by my good friend, Mr. Jonathan M. Carney. Smokin Nicole is not on the show with us tonight, but she is here in spirit in the background. But tonight we want to welcome our very special guest, Mr. Craig Vanderslice of CigarCraig.com. Now, if you've been around the cigar world long enough, you've probably heard of CigarCraig.com. Craig, it's an honor to have you on the show. It'll be really interesting to get a different perspective. And I do want to clarify that Craig does not do reviews as previously advertised. That was a mistake.
No,
Craig,
I try and avoid formal reviews. I have kind of my own take on that, but thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's gonna be fun tonight.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you on. Like I said, it's a lot of times we have reps or owners and stuff like that from different brands, but I love when we do these episodes. Like we've had Coop on before, we've had other podcasters or people like us on here, and it's always cool because it's a different kind of conversation. There's a little bit of note sharing. We've had some conversations about some stuff that have some topics and questions lined up for you later in the show. So I think it's gonna be a good time. And as always, we have Mr. Jonathan Carney here with us. Let's see that flex. Come on, don't be shy. Come on.
Dude, yesterday was pull-up day. When I'm back here in Maine, we do some different stuff. As you notice, my locale is definitely different. This is not a backdrop. This is logs behind me. It is 15 degrees. I am up in Maine at my family's place at the Carney Estate, but it's good to be here. I've got my grill going, so I am cooking some food, mainly to stay warm. As a side effect, we'll have sustenance. But I'm smoking something kind of cool today. I talked to you about this indirectly, Matthew, via text this last weekend.
Yep.
But I had the fortunate opportunity to go to a really unique cigar event. And very rarely do I get to go to cigar events and be a consumer and, be really excited about what's going on. I've been to a lot of cigar events. I think the events that I do are entertaining. And those are fun for me and the consumers and whatnot, but very rarely do I go to other cigar events. And this one was really unique. I was in Orlando, Florida on Saturday over the weekend for Valentine's Day. And there was this cigar brand and whiskey brand that was very unique to me. And I'll tell the story really quick. And very unique to my town of Lincoln, Maine, where I am right now. It's a town of about 2,400 people. But the brand was called Hooten & Young. So that's what I'm smoking right now. And I'm smoking the Hooten & Young Gothic Serpent. And what this was for those of you that have ever watched the movie Black Hawk Down, that name of that operation in Mogadishu was called Operation Gothic Serpent. And on this box, there's 19 stars. So this gentleman, Master Sergeant Hooten, and his business partner, Mr. Young here, started a cigar and whiskey brand. And I actually spoke to them. We'll be having them on the show sometime. But Mr. Hooten, Master Sergeant Hooten, was essentially the star of that real life story of Black Hawk Down. And he was one of the people that was advised on the movie and whatnot. And where this is close to my heart is on this box, there's 19 stars. And a portion of their revenue goes towards military families, military efforts and things like that. But on this here, as I said, it's 19 stars. A very special thing to me was there's a gentleman from our town. His name was Master Sergeant Gary Gordon, and he actually served as a special forces unit that was actually here in Mogadishu, and he was one of the 19 stars that's actually represented on here because he passed away during that mission to save those Blackhawks. And it's kind of cool because I went up to them and I brought that story up, and I talked to my parents and said if they thought it'd be appropriate, and I had a great conversation with them. We talked for a couple hours. I picked up a bottle of whiskey, but inside the box they discuss the mission. And the gentleman actually told me on here they have the 2 Blackhawk crash sites listed on inside here, and the second crash site was the one where Gary Gordon was at from our town. And the unique thing about Gary, he's our local hero here, and my father was actually his high school football coach. So it's really special. They wrote on the box to the Carney family, Godspeed in all endeavors. This was from Hoot, and I also picked up a box that I'm going to be doing something with donation-wise here in town, and he signed that to the residents of Lincoln, Maine, God bless, all the best. But it was really special to meet somebody that knew him, who's the gentleman's a local hero, a national hero, and from our very small town, to meet somebody that knew him really well and was with him at that time. So it was really cool. So that's what I'm smoking tonight. Sorry for the long story, but I'm smoking the Gothic Serpent in honor of Master Sergeant Gary Gordon this evening.
Awesome story. Awesome story. That's really cool. I enjoyed listening to that. That's a, it's a cool story. The Black Hawk Down and all that. So that was, I didn't even realize all of that. That was really informative. I really thank you for sharing that with us, John. To follow up with that, I'm smoking the McAuliffe Leander No. 1. And Craig, what are you smoking over there?
I'm smoking a cigar that's was one of my favorite cigars of the last couple of years. It's a small company out of Honduras called Donley Honduras Tobacco. It's called a Don Juan Calavera. I don't know if you can see that. It's
yeah.
Kind of under the radar brand. It's starting to get some legs. There's starting to get around this area. Mark Weisenberger, who some people know from Rocky Patel, he's got his own brokerage in the Northeast now. He's picked it up, so it's starting to get around at least the Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York area, New Jersey. I came across it a couple years ago. It's just their whole line's been it just hits me right. They only make Toros, which is right in my wheelhouse. The Sumatra, this is the one I'm smoking now, is one of my favorites. They have a Maduro and a Connecticut. They're all fantastic in this line. They have a bunch of other lines. They have a barber pole called the Clown that's really quite nice. So yeah, I'm just sitting here enjoying this after having a couple of root canals this morning, and just enjoying a Don Juan Calavera Sumatra.
So I just want to highlight really quickly. Actually, by the way, I think I've seen the Clown before. I've never had it, but I think I've definitely seen that now that you say that. I just want to highlight. So one of our contributors to the Smokin Tabacco platform, show, website, as well as fan of the show, Orlando Perez. If you guys know Orlando, you know that he's had a couple of root canals recently, and after which he was saying about how he couldn't smoke after all this. I just wanted to say, so Craig had a few root canals today, not just one. And he had two. He had two in one day, and he's already smoking. So Orlando, there's no excuse. There's no excuse why you can't smoke after having one root canal.
I mean, it's not like we labor him hard either. So he doesn't. I mean, if he needs a day off, we can give him a day off. I mean, he doesn't even technically have days on. There's no schedule.
I know.
I was at work by 10 o'clock.
Yeah, see, look at that, Orlando. You could learn from Craig. Come on, step it up, buddy. So Craig, we were talking a little bit before about your stance on reviews. So you had mentioned that you do have some opinions on reviews and kind of like why you stand where you do.
Sure.
I'm going to bring that right up right now because I'm excited to hear about it. So tell us your thoughts on cigar reviewing and kind of like why you don't do a lot of real straightforward reviews or really a lot of them at all.
Sure. So I don't have anything against anybody that does reviews. They can free to do what they feel like they want to do. But I don't do them because I feel like, one, if somebody doesn't like walnuts, or if somebody's never tasted a walnut, if I say a cigar tastes like walnuts, that's not going to be relevant to them. So there's a lot of subjectivity in cigar reviews. So you have to have a frame of reference to have flavor descriptors, and for somebody to say something tastes like something, that has to mean, you have to have a frame of reference that has to mean something. I basically use cocoa, I use coffee, I use wood, and very basic flavor descriptors when I describe cigars. And that's because that's basically what what it means to me and how I perceive them in my frame of reference. I don't have a broad flavor palette to choose from, because face it, I'm a picky eater. I don't eat a whole lot of stuff, and that's just the way I am. So
Yeah.
for me to try and describe cigars flavors to pinpoint various flavors would be just kind of bullshitting my way through, and I don't do that. So I tell a story about a cigar, tell the components, the makeup of it, where it's from, where it's made. If there's some backstory, I describe it that way, and then I'll give a broad overview of the flavor highlights, and that's pretty much my version of a review of a cigar.
Go ahead,
Would you
John.
consider yourself? You said you're a picky eater. Would you consider yourself a picky cigar smoker for the same reasons?
Well, probably. I mean, there's some. I smoke everything. I try everything. So I'm probably less of a picky smoker than I am a picky eater, because I'll try everything. I won't. If I don't like it, I won't smoke it again. But I'm much more likely to try a cigar than I am to try some food that I think I probably won't like. I mean, if I have a preconceived notion about some exotic food, I probably won't try it, right? I probably won't try octopus, because the idea of it doesn't appeal to me, right?
Oh, I love octopus.
So I'm probably not going to try it, just because it's probably not something I want to try, right? But I'll smoke a cigar that has, I don't know, candela in the filler, say.
Yeah. So for our listeners who maybe are not familiar with you, so your website is cigarcraig.
Most of them, probably.
Most of them, yeah. Your website is cigarcraig.com. So you are more of a conventional cigar blogger.
I would think so, yeah.
And you've been around for
wear that badge proudly.
And you've been around for how long now?
I started the website in September of 2009, and prior to that, I had been writing on Usenet for, I don't know, from 1996. I started writing on the Alt Smokers Cigars Usenet group, so I'd been around the interwebs for a little bit.
Craig, explain a little bit more, because I'm familiar with Usenet, but there's probably a ton of people who very rarely hear that brought up. Can you explain a little bit more what the concept of Usenet was and how that played a role in premium cigars?
Okay, sure. So Usenet was it's kind of like message boards, where there was a separate network of news groups where people would upload their message or message threads, and there were it's kind of like Reddit is now, basically, where there were just subgroups of various interests where people could exchange messages, start threads, exchange messages back and forth, and they would get uploaded and propagated around servers around the world, and you'd have a separate program that would download all the messages. At the time, most of it was over dial-up, so you'd dial in and download all the messages and drop off, because it cost you a fortune to be connected, right? And read all the messages and reply to them, and it was kind of like less real time than it is now, and there was no pictures, so you didn't know who any of these people were you were communicating with. There were all these weird dudes that were, you're writing all these long messages, like this Steve Saka guy and Lou Rothman and Christian Iroa and all these people that were on this news group that were writing all these long informative messages and getting involved in all these discussions and answering all these questions, and you had no idea what they looked like, or who they were. Some of them weren't even in the cigar business yet, like Saka. He wasn't even in the cigar business at the time. So yeah, I mean, that was it was before there were web forums, and there weren't even a lot of cigar websites at the time. It was a wild west.
So you've been around, I would say, for fairly most of the newer technological era of the cigar industry, and you've been writing.
Just to say, I'm old. Yeah.
Well, I don't like to put it that way, but I mean, you're free to speak about yourself how you wish. But you've been writing for a while, so you've been around. You've gotten to meet people, know people. What would you say, in all of your experience, what has been your favorite thing that you've done? I guess with not just Cigar Craig, but I guess in terms of more anything you've written. Like what was like your favorite thing you ever wrote, or the thing you ever covered? I would say in your experience.
That's a great question, because I mean, in general, just all the people I've met has been a highlight, just because of doing this. When I started, my wife initially bought me the cigarcraig.com domain, which led me to starting the blog. She bought the domain for me for a birthday present, and I had to come up with something to do with it. And I just started writing crap, I had no idea anybody'd ever read it, so I just started writing stuff. And it just kind of turned into this, right? So I think one of the neatest things was getting to interview George Hamilton, who you guys might not know who George Hamilton is. He was a very, very famous actor. He's been in so many movies. He was known for having a great tan. He was a very famous actor in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
You'll Google him and know who he is, I think. But that was a lot of fun. He had his name on a cigar bar in New York, back in the 90s in Vegas. Hamilton's, obviously. Goes without saying. But that was kind of fun. He was a Hollywood legend. That was kind of cool.
How did you go about that interview? Was that initiated?
My wife did PR work and got in touch with his people and set it up, and it was kind of funny because his people told me he was going to be on the West Coast, and so yeah, I called him at like 3 o'clock thinking it was going to be, or I called him at 6 o'clock thinking it was going to be 3 o'clock his time, and he was on the East Coast, and it was 6 o'clock, and he was thinking I was supposed to call him at 3 o'clock, and he was really gracious about it, but it's kind of funny, but it was a great interview. I ended up several years after the fact using the recorded copy. I had transcribed it on the website, but I used the recorded conversation as my first podcast episode when I tried to start a podcast, which only lasted like 13 episodes. Still out there, but yeah, it was kind of interesting.
So you decided to jump into the podcast pool, but you didn't end up sticking around, which is okay. Was it really just not your style? Were you more comfortable just writing and doing strict blogging than?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of competition. It was a lot of work, editing it and getting it in the way I wanted it to be. And at the time, it was something I did when I was between jobs, and there was an imbalance of. I didn't have a job, so I had the time to put into it, but I didn't have the money to put into getting the equipment I needed. And, it was that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting a podcast is definitely very involved. It can be expensive, as we learned last year. But we're good now. So we figured it out. We're still figuring it out, technically, I guess.
Nothing that maxing out a credit card can't fix.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. It's you know, it is what it is. But you know what? In the end, we pulled it off, and it is all bought and paid for, and we just hope it stays afloat. So Craig, you, I guess it's safe to say, have been around since before. I would call it the new era of cigar media. Now there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot more social media stuff going on. You're kind of from the era where it was just bloggers, and that was really the only source of media coverage in the cigar industry. And John, you can back me up on this as well, because you've been around a lot longer than I have, as well. But from what I understand, there was a period before all these podcasts, and there was the social media stuff was like really non-existent. And from the conversations I've had with people, a lot of brands relied strictly on the bloggers to do reviews, but also just talk about brands, get people to familiar with them, because there was a lot of blogs out there and bloggers that would cover stuff, and people who would follow them, and that's how a lot of people found out about stuff that maybe they didn't see at their local shop. They'd go online, they'd read blogs, say, hey, I'm smoking my father Lancero, blah 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 blah. Maybe someone had never seen that before, and that's where they kind of got their information from. So in your opinion, how has the quote unquote cigar media scene changed, in your opinion, for better or for worse? What do you make of where it is now versus where it was when you started?
You'd think. I think back in the early part of the teens, I guess, right? The 2011, 12, and it was all, it was a lot of bloggers. It was a lot of everybody had a blog, right? And there was still a lot of pushback in the industry. John, you know how it was at the IPCPR with bloggers. We were kind of the outcast. Nobody wanted us around. There was very few people that were embracing the bloggers. We were a bad word. There were a couple people that made us look bad along the lines, and a lot of guys that were doing that have kind of fallen off. Some have stuck around. I'm one of the stubborn ones that's stuck it out. But what was the question again?
Well, Craig, I'll say the big thing was at the beginning, and I wasn't around. I was a cigar smoker, but I wasn't around in the industry at that time. But when I came into it, it was kind of transitioning.
Right.
It went from bloggers and kind of hobbyists and to chat rooms and discussion boards, and it really matured into actual media. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges for manufacturers was, is this actual media, or is this a just a message board and something like Cigars I want to talk about it. And then there were some companies, I think Drew Estate was one of the ones that was the forefront of this, that identified these blog spaces and identified these message spaces as potential for influencers. And it did. I mean, there was a huge influence from that. You still see it to this day. But I think the big transition, and I think you'll agree, and I'll put it back to you just here after this, is it transitioned into, okay, from these group, which ones now can we identify as true in actual media? And it's much easier now to identify someone that's being successful with it, that's actually promoting it as media, rather than 10, 15 years ago when somebody said, hey, I want cigars, or I need this, or hey, do you have any information? I can now look what you're doing and really decide the right direction of who's actually doing it. So I think those are transitioned, and it's more identifiable now what's actual true media.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, restate the question for me, Matt, because I got off track. I apologize.
No, that's okay. No, I was just going to ask you, in your opinion, as and after everything John said, I guess from your standpoint of still being kind of a classic cigar blogger, what is your opinion on, just how the evolution of cigar media has come?
Yeah, I think it's gained a lot more acceptance by the cigar companies. I think the cigar companies have figured out who the serious people are. I don't know if it's just, it's gotten maybe it's gotten priced out of the hobbyist realm. So the serious people, that can afford to do it right are the ones that get taken seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe that has something to do with it. I mean, I think there's a lot that's evolved as far as technology and bandwidth that that makes the video aspect of it. I mean, I have 100 and some odd videos on YouTube of IPCPR interviews and things. I did a few IPCPR mashup videos where I'd ask all the principals of various companies a goofy question, and they were pretty popular and something different that people didn't do, right? But that was back when everybody was just doing video interviews at the IPCPR. I didn't want to be doing the same old thing, but it's a lot easier now to do videos like you guys do, or like a lot of the YouTubers that are doing a lot of good videos, reviews, shows, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to have the conversation. You're not doing podcasting, you're not doing the video stuff like we are, and you're more of an old school classic blogger, which is cool in itself. But it's always just interesting to get someone's opinion who's kind of like, I guess, a little bit outside of that realm, just kind of from the outside looking in. I do want to hit our news segment really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And John, I'm gonna throw it to you because tonight's topic I think you can really get into a little bit better. But tonight our news segment is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. McAuliffe ambassadors, thank you for watching. Thank you for being out there. I'm a proud ambassador myself. Everyone here at Smokin Tabacco is a proud ambassador. And if you're not an ambassador, you should head over to McAuliffeCigars.com and sign up, get your tasting passport, get your tasting passport pack, send that in. And also, if you're a McAuliffe ambassador already, make sure that you follow along with the McAuliffe Madness. The brackets, I believe, are coming to an end soon, and they're heating up, and it's definitely a great time. So the biggest thing I would say is I think we covered this a week or two ago. I forget who the first one was to do it, but there's been more companies to follow suit with making donations to the TAA, and John,
no, it was PCA. So
I'm sorry.
The
PCA.
TAA. There's two big news items today. First of all, Rush Limbaugh, one of the most iconic cigar smokers in the planet, passed away today at 70 years old from lung cancer. Sadly, that was a very sad thing, especially since he's a well-renowned smoker. Coincidentally, I do believe he was actually a cigarette smoker for quite a long time in his life. So I don't believe that there was an issue with the cigars, but he definitely lived fast for quite a period of time, and he was a legendary cigar smoker. He was a big supporter of the industry as a whole and a huge supporter of men's health. Rush Limbaugh, rest in peace. No matter what you think of him, it's time to recognize what he meant to the cigar industry and what he meant to a lot of people. So he's a very special person for our industry and a very special person for our company. But he did pass away today. So that's the first piece of news. And then the second was TAA was the first group. PCA obviously has some financial challenges. They're the largest group in regards to solely premium cigars in terms of lobbying in Washington, D.C. and lobbying for our industry. And not having a trade show, that being their largest fundraising effort last year, has been very challenging, and it's been well documented. But there's been a lot of associations and individuals and companies that have stepped up. TAA was the first. They put up forth $50,000 for state lobbying, advocacy. And I think the way that the TAA presented itself, and I was part of the discussion on that internally. And the way they worded that and the way that it was represented was really well, and it opened up an opportunity for other companies that have now stepped up. Pete Johnson, I believe, personally put up $10,000 on his own, and I just saw that Eddie Terrazona from Terrazona Cigars, which is a very small company, but Eddie's a great guy out of South Florida. Eddie put up $10,000 as well, and the other ones that I saw documented online, I may have missed some. Shorty Cable from Havana Connections in Richmond, Virginia, donated as well, and has put up a challenge for individuals, consumers, and manufacturers, and on top of that, anyone for state advocacy. This is a time where they could certainly use it. Who knows what's going to happen with the trade show, even if it's delayed. There will be some financial challenges, and anything we can do to support the premium cigar industry. As said, there's other groups out there that represent us as a whole, but they're the sole lobbyist group in regards to the premium cigar side of it, where that's their full focus, along with premium pipe tobacco. So that was a big deal. That's something that's going on. So keep an eye on social media on that. If you're able to participate, I definitely suggest that. I think it'd be go to a great cause if you're a cigar smoker. And second, I think you'll start to see other companies jumping on board. And it seems to be PCA is making a really big deal about it, as they should, when these people make those separate donations just independently from their other fundraising efforts. So that's something big we'll see right now, and I think that's probably the biggest news in the industry as we get to a time where we're going to start to see what's happening with some of these trade shows.
Well said. Craig.
Also, for the record, two things. For those people watching, I'm cooking today. I'm cooking some steaks for my father and I and some shrimp. The main purpose of my cooking is to keep myself warm because it's 15 degrees outside, and I am definitely missing the South because cigars don't perform very well outdoors in 15-degree weather. And this has absolutely exploded on me. It has nothing to do with production. It has everything to do with me sitting outdoors. And I forgot, because I'm not normally up here at this time of the year, how much I take for granted where I live during the cold months.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. And I think the three of us, I mean, I'm indoors, so it's not as bad, but the three of us are in cold climates right now. Craig, you're from Pennsylvania, you said, right?
Yep, outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, so you know about the bitterness and the cold.
I do.
Not everyone has the luxury of having a waterfront property down in Miami, Florida. Just throwing it out there. Yeah, you must be feeling a little extra cold as you start to chill up from that heat you built up in Miami, John.
The problem is I'm well taken care of up top, and below my toes are because heat rises, so the grills keep me really warm here. I do have my garage open, so I'm not going to die of asphyxiation from carbon monoxide or anything like that. But the toes, I forgot how cold your toes get. So I'm freezing to death over here. So well, that's some more breaking news. I may have frostbite. So thank you, Macau Cigars, for sponsoring the news and tonight's frostbitten toes.
Are you wearing the Crocs tonight? Is that what's going on?
God, I made a huge mistake. I had them on yesterday and it snowed, and I forgot because I just wear them all the time, and they have holes in them. And I stepped in a snowbank accidentally, and without thinking, and it was a big mistake.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I saw some Crocs with like snow chains that you could put on them, so that would be handy for you.
Don't tempt me with a good time, Craig.
Greg, as much as that was probably just meant to be a joke, he will make that a reality by next week.
So, Craig, speaking of weather and being in different places, you occasionally, and I've seen your wife before with you, you occasionally make cigar pilgrimages, essentially, to other areas. I believe a summer or so ago, you did a trip up to New Hampshire to see the Cigar Authority and spend some time at Two Guys Smoke Shop. Do you miss that in the current environment? And second, what's your next plan?
Absolutely. I don't have any current plans. I do miss the cigar travel. I mean, shoot, it's been the last time I was out of the country for to Central Americas was 2013, for crying out loud. I really need to get back down to Nicaragua or Dominican. It's been almost 10 years since I've been to the Dominican, which is just terrible. It kills me. But yeah, 2013 was the last time I was in Nicaragua, and it's terrible. I miss it terribly, and I'm sure it's changed a ton. But yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania, so there's lots of places around. We've got lots of great stores. I mean, I've got just a ton of nice cigar stores within 10-mile radius of my home. But I mean, I generally go to cigar stores when there's cigar events, and there haven't been any of those recently. I've got a nice back porch here where I do a lot of my smoking. When the weather's decent, my habit is to take the dog for a walk. When we went up to New Hampshire the last time to the Cigar Authority, we took the dog with us. The dog up there in the shop, hearing something sounds like snow plowing or something.
Yes. There's things going on. There's things going on in the background in preparation for what might happen.
I see.
Yeah, as usual, there's background noises from the Carney feed, but that's okay.
As long as it's not the dogs barking here.
Yeah, no, we don't hear that, so
that's good. That's good. Yeah, we like to travel around, but this year has been, of course, not conducive to that. I spent a lot of 2020 between jobs, so I started a new job in August and haven't gotten any vacation time, so that's I'm waiting for the vacation time to kick in so we can make some plans, hopefully go somewhere this year and see what happens.
Craig, what is it that you primarily do for work outside of Cigar Craig?
My latest adventure is I'm a warehouse manager for a company that handles medical equipment for veterans administrations. We distribute durable medical equipment to veterans. So I handle the warehouse operations for that, which is pretty cool. I spent 20 years of my life in the purchasing area and for various industries, and about 3 years ago I decided I was tired of that rat race and got out of that and spent some time working for an Apple products retailer, and that store closed, and then I spent some time between looking for work and then COVID happened and nobody was hiring, so then I lucked into this job, and it's a great little company. That's the office is 3 miles from my house, and it all works out really well for me. So.
Yeah, I mean that's good as long as you you have a path to follow and you figure it out. I guess it's the best thing. Sounds like you're doing okay.
Love what I'm doing, and love what I'm doing, and can't get much better than that.
So John, just
hopefully.
No, go ahead, Craig.
I just hopefully in the coming months things open up and it frees up some time to do some travel and find some cool places to hang out and smoke cigars.
Yeah, absolutely. John. I was just gonna say I muted.
Yeah, I know I was muted. Yeah, I could see it. It was fine. Another one of the cool features of being back in Maine is there's people here in the house. And if any of you watched any of my programs from up in the northern part of the country, they always seem to participate in my shows, and they don't realize there's a show going on. I believe I have to set up more equipment. I mean, I have lights, cameras. Apparently I need to say action. Like right now, there's a car coming into the garage. There's all sorts of things going on here. So I'm going to mute myself again.
Yeah, John, his experiences when he records from Maine are significantly different from when he records in Miami. The only person who, as of late now, is usually around for his Miami appearances, is the mysterious woman who shall not be named. I think we're going to stick with that trend for now. John has a mysterious woman that is usually with him, but we're not going to elaborate on that. We'll leave that to the imagination. Craig, so John brought up an interesting point with the travel. What would you say, out of the traveling you've done for cigars, what has been your favorite destination that you've embarked on for cigars?
I've done the Drew Estate cigar safari twice in 2011 and 13, and that was an amazing experience. I loved that. Enjoyed that quite a bit. That has to be my favorite to date.
Really?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's been a lot of events and stuff like that we have talked about going to, and last year, going into 2020 was like the year we were going to do it, and then obviously very quickly we learned that no one was going anywhere. So we've been very eager for over a year now to do so many things. The Drew Estate events. You mentioned the safari. There's the Barn Smoker.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of the Barn Smokers.
Yeah, so I mean those are on the list. Factory tours. We've been invited to several factory tours. In the DR, Nicaragua, so stuff like that. Just getting out and seeing different shops, covering all of Florida, which is a cigar trip in itself.
Sure.
We're definitely excited for that, and we just hope that very, very soon we can actually, finally get on with that. It's killing me. It's killing me, not being able to go on the cigar tour of the world, so to speak.
It'll change your life.
Yeah, oh yeah, and we're so eager for it. I can't wait for the day that I can book the first handful of flights, because that's going to be a very fun day. But so you've definitely gone to a lot of places. You've done a lot of events. You've gone to the trade shows as well.
Yeah, a lot of times.
So from your standpoint, and someone in your shoes, what are some of the do's and don'ts when going to the trade show for someone like yourself, blogger or media or anything like that?
Sure. So some of the big don'ts is don't get in the way of commerce. Don't interrupt vendors when they're talking with retailers. Yep. Be respectful of the fact that the purpose of the trade show is for the retailers and the manufacturers to interact. The media is there secondary. I wish that the media was there by invitation on press passes, so that that they were invited there and didn't have to be paid members. That would be my wish. I think the fact that the media pays for a membership, they should have a little more leeway in what they're allowed to do at the show, but that's not the case. They have to pay for a membership, and then they also have to abide by all the rules that that they're treated differently. However, that being said, they have to abide by the rules and not interrupt commerce. I think it's important from a due standpoint is to make as much, as much use of the 3.5 days you're there as possible, and make appointments as much as possible. Try and keep the appointments because everybody's time is valuable. The vendors are there meeting with retailers, like I said, and they have appointments with retailers. So if their time, if they slot time for you, they expect you to keep that time. So you have to always be respectful of their time. And I think that's the most important thing. And if they ask you not to do something, don't do it. And I think respect is the most important thing.
I agree. I think that the best thing you can do is carry yourself very well, show a lot of respect, especially I think in a period where the media is still kind of trying to prove itself. I think you made a nice point. about media should be more of an invitation and not, I guess treated to the same, the membership fee. I can see where you're going with that. I think it's an interesting point. For I'm totally sorry. I forgot where I was going with next.
So let me fill in a little bit. I'll be completely transparent. I was a member for 5 years, I think, of the IPCPR, and I let it lapse because after I've been to other trade shows. I went to the NAMM show, which is a big music show, where they invited the media in and treated the media like gold. They, had a media room. You rolled out the red carpet for the media, and gave you everything you needed. It had a place to go work if you needed to work. You had all kinds. They just whatever you need to do, just write an article about it. You're here as our guests. Do what you have to do. Now that's a different show. It's not a selling show. It's an exposition. It's a little different, but they treated the media really well. So there's a little bit of a difference. But when I saw that, I said, if the IPCPR treated the media this way, it would be so much better. I mean, just invite the media. We're here, many of us, most of us, paying out of our own pockets to get here, to, hotel rooms, transportation, food, everything. This is our vacation in most cases. That's coming out of our pockets. We sell some advertising to pay for some things, but this is not a cheap thing for us to do. And it's not, getting a couple of samples isn't covering the expense. We're doing this out of the love of the industry, and we're giving a lot back in the form of writing articles about everything we see there. Mm-hmm. I went to the TPE show last year. This is a show that, while it was a selling show, they're writing orders. They rolled out the red carpet for the media. They had a little media room. They, invited the media, didn't charge us to get in. They treated us really well. I thought it was really cool. So, I don't see why the IPCPR can't follow that and just issue media passes, vet the media, just get the right guys there. I use the word guys, the right people there that cover the show the right way. They don't bring in people that are just going around disrupting and, not doing it the right way.
So do you think that
off of my soapbox?
No, it's interesting. So do you think that, given the events that have happened in the last year and the way that the media became kind of the sole, I don't want to say, maybe not the sole, but the majority factor of how a lot of things have happened in the cigar industry in the last year due to, everything having to be remote. It was really the time for media to bloom and blossom, going back to the regular world or an alternate reality of such. Do you feel that maybe the PCA will maybe kind of take that into consideration, watching what has happened in the last year, and say, you know what, the media was really the backbone during that time, considering the fact that no one could really get around and everything was done online, and the shows and the websites and everything was just how everything was happening. Do you think that maybe that'll make them kind of think a little bit more about how the media should be treated, considering, a lot of us were really the ones there during this time?
I hope so. I don't know if that'll happen just because the people that are in charge of things, I don't know if they'll see it that way, but yeah. I think it could be optimistic to hope that they can see it that way.
Mm-hmm. It would be kind of strange, don't you think? And I still haven't heard tons of discussion about it, but the media has played a vital role in everything. I mean, this was the outlet at the beginning of COVID last year when everybody was sitting at home was like, what shows can we be on? People creating shows, like Smokin Tabacco. And it's become huge. I mean, there's something going on every day of the week. There's somebody on a show every day of the week. Manufacturers doing their own types of virtual shows. And we've been doing some things in conjunction with media. And I think it would be crazy if the PCA didn't embrace the media. I would even recommend that the PCA does a media day where there's a press conference with the members. Really build it up. As you said, like, why not make that available for content for your show? It doesn't interfere with commerce if you build the show that way and build that opportunity in. It'd be fine. And by the way, we're all big boys as manufacturers. Like, if you come by, Craig, and I'm busy, guess what? I tell you I'm busy.
Of course.
So
absolutely.
I don't understand why people ever had an issue with it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Of course.
Like, I've never understood. So it's always been interesting to me because it's like, if I don't have time to talk to someone, I don't have time to talk to them at the show, and then we make time. So I think it'd be wild to not embrace it.
And why should an adult complain about that? Oh, he told me no. Well, you're an adult. Just, that's the way it should be, act like an adult.
Absolutely. I really want to hit our sports segment before we run out of time, as we are getting towards the end of the show. The sports segment is brought to you by Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova, make Nova big. If you head over to novacigar.com, you can use our discount code SMKTAB15 to save 15% off of your next order at novacigars.com. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. We are post-football season. Basketball is in full swing, which is more of John's department as of late. I'll let him touch on that. My department really lately has just been NASCAR, because that's my game right now. Daytona 500 was on Sunday. A long weather delay, but they got the race in. I'm not sure how I feel about the way that race ended. A little bit of an unknown taking a Daytona 500 win, and a lot of headlining drivers were ultimately a do not finish, crash out. A big one happened 16 laps in, weather delay right after, race resumed right at the end on the final lap. Pretty much the rest of all of the premier drivers were taken out. So it's not the race that I had hoped for, to be honest with you. I don't know how John feels about it, but that's just kind of was my takeaway.
I mean, I didn't get to catch as much as I wanted to, because it was start and go, and it was a big delay, and then half the field was out. I mean, it was exciting. It lasted the whole day. It was really long, but it didn't really do it for me. Like, when I watch racing, I don't enjoy it the same way you do. I'm a big fan of it, but if the race doesn't get off when I need the race to get off, and there's all sorts of backups and challenges, and it just wasn't really enjoyable. It was the same thing when I talked about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl was fun. Super Bowl is always fun. Daytona 500's like the Super Bowl of NASCAR. But that Super Bowl, the same thing. It just wasn't an exciting game. It just wasn't really. It was a long game. Same thing with Daytona 500 for me. It was just long, man. It was a long day following it, and there was just when you have all those racers out, it doesn't highlight the sport as well, in my opinion. And you said, sketchy finish, and it was just really interesting. And I think there's going to be some other races that are good. It just happened to, every race can't be perfect, but it wasn't the race I was looking for, certainly.
100%, I agree with that. It was, and I'm not going to trash talk anybody, but it's not really exciting when a guy who's never won a race in his 20-year experience wins his first one at the Daytona 500. And it's not really a battle of a finish. It was just more of a crash out, and he was just a lucky guy who squeaked by. And you can disagree with me. That's fine. That's just kind of how I look at it. I was disappointed. It wasn't. That would have been
Isn't that kind of how Kyle Busch won the week before, though? That he kind of just squeaked by at the end. So it's cool when Kyle Busch does it because we're a fan of him. But when when a less recognized driver wins, Really we should celebrate that, right?
I mean, I guess. I mean, it's nothing against the guy. I mean, I don't have anything against him. It's just, I like the big showy finish. That was just kind of like, oh wait, who won? I mean, it's just, as a race fan, I do get a little too into it. Anyone who's ever watched a NASCAR race with me will tell you that it gets a little loud and gets a little obnoxious around me for a number of reasons and scenarios regarding that race. I think, John, you were at my house over the summer, and I had a race on my iPad. We were all hanging out in the backyard, and um, Kyle got clipped into the wall or something like that. I remember he crashed out. It was a good race. It was towards the end. It was looking good for him, and I lost it. I think that was your first taste of me getting fired up about NASCAR. So I think you certainly know how I feel about the sport. But
So,
yeah, I mean,
speaking of sport, though, cooking is a sport, and I just prepared a nice dish for you today, Craig. We've got a 2.5 pound bone-in New York strip. A ribeye. We've got lemon pepper shrimp here that's been done on the grill, and 2 filet mignons. So we're gonna have this for dinner this evening.
Oh.
So that's going to be delicious, and it was great to cook. I don't cook as often on this show. Occasionally I do. So I thought you were a good. I thought you would be a good guest for it, and also it was freezing, so this kept me warm.
I could have chewed that on the right side of my mouth.
By the way, nobody who's watching this, Orlando, Craig is literally just dominating you when you have root canals. He's willing to eat. He's willing to smoke. So
absolutely.
There's been a new bar set for root canals.
Yeah, I agree. Orlando needs to step up his game. He's also the same guy who, John's out there in the cold cooking. Craig's out in the cold right now on the show. Hasn't really complained about it at all. And Orlando is in Anaheim, California, and when the temperature drops below 60, he has to let everybody know that he's got his winter coat on, he's got his winter gloves on, he's chilly, and oh my God, it's 55 in Southern California. It's like, Orlando, do you know what I would do to have 55 degrees in February, as my low point? I know, like, hell. Dude, you don't even know. Come live in New England for 6 months in the wintertime and then tell me that you can't stand the coldness of Southern California. You don't have a clue. I don't even know if Orlando's even seen snow before. I have to ask him that question. Probably doesn't even know what that is. But yeah, we're getting to the end of the show. Craig, I want to thank you for coming on. It's been fun. It's been interesting to get your perspective on some things. Nicole's not on with us this week, but I have a couple of announcements. We're gonna make more of an announcement later because we're still finalizing some stuff. But Great Smokes this weekend. For those of you guys who follow Smokin, the Great Smoke, KMA, shout out to those guys, awesome guys down there. That's going to be on Saturday, and we will be doing our own kind of Smokin Tabacco herf alongside that, which is going to be fun. We do have a contest that we're putting together. We've spoken to Michael Herklotz about it. He will be a part of that. And there will be some prizes that can be won. So stay tuned for that announcement. We're going to finalize that in the next day or so. And it'll be a great time. We were excited for the Great Smoke ourselves, trying to jump in on some of the festivities and get more people engaged in it because we think it's going to be an awesome time, and we want to make sure that everyone can get in on that and see that event. Craig, you're the guest on the show. Before we sign off, I'm going to throw the floor to you. Any announcements you want to make, anything you want to say, the floor is yours.
Oh, I got nothing. I just keep writing stuff on cigarcraig.com on usually Sundays and Wednesdays. Try and get something up tonight or tomorrow night as opportunity arises. Sometimes I do Wednesdays, sometimes I do Thursdays. Depends on my whim. It's my site. I do what I want. Just stay tuned.
Yeah,
nothing special coming up. I just it's organic. I just write what I want. That's kind of keep doing my thing and keeping it It's a blog, it's a web blog. I just keep plugging away year after year.
Absolutely. You got to do it. You got to live on your own terms, Craig. I totally agree with that. John, you have a virtual event coming up.
So
Actually, two.
So we got exciting stuff. We got exciting stuff going on. Tomorrow night, I'll be at the Tobacco Estate. We're going to be having a Smokin Tabacco night in Santiago with some friends in Pennsylvania at the Cigar Box, actually, Craig. Michael Barletta will be on there with us. We'll have Tony Gomez will be on there. That'll be at 7 p.m. and that will be the Smoking at Tobacco edition because we'll be at the Tobacco Estate. And then Thursday is Gourmet Smoke Session number 5 in Hartford, Connecticut. With the Penthouse Cigar and Lounge just in South Hartford. So that'll be at 7 p.m. as well. So tomorrow at 7 will be on Facebook and YouTube Live, and then Friday's the big show with the the Florida Americana Gourmet Smoke Session. So looking forward to that. And then I said we got the Smokin Tabacco Herf we're doing on Saturday in conjunction with the viewing of the Great Smoke. So that should be an exciting 3 or 4 days for premium cigars out there. So, but Craig, thank you so much for coming on. It's really good to see you. I hope to see you out in the real world as soon as possible. And in the meantime, continue doing what you do. We certainly appreciate your approach to it and what CigarCraig.com has done and what you've done with that's been great in the industry.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And John, I was talking to Danny Ditkwich last week, and he said you were coming up there in May?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing one of our smoke sessions at the end of May down in Long Island, and we're coordinating that this last week, and we're finalizing what we're gonna do with that. So yeah, May 27th. We do have the date. We're just finalizing the program.
Interesting. It's one of the places I've been meaning to go. Maybe have to see how the schedule works out for that.
We'd love to have you, and you can most certainly be my guest. So if you are able to do it, let me know, and we'd love to have you.
That would be interesting because I'd love to get up there. La Serena is one of my favorite brands. Love that. Love their lines.
Likewise.
Yeah, we had them on the show October of last year. That was a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good show. But guys, I think that's it. I think we've covered all the bases. Craig, thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks again.
Great conversation. And yeah, it's like I said, and like John said, there's some interesting events out there, so keep an eye out for those. And we will see you next week. Take care, guys.